Ladies and gentlemen, with the new Elvis movie by Baz Luhrmann, everybody's getting ready to pay tribute to the king. But in 1979, on the small screen, this Dick Clark production, only about a year and a half after Elvis' death, brought Elvis into the 1980s through one of the greatest actors of his generation. He was directed by the great John Carpenter, and this guy worked with Carpenter many times through the years, mostly for horror and action movies, but this was John Carpenter's break from Halloween and all these other bigger movies of the 1980s. So Elvis, Dick Clark production for ABC, was made in the States. It was a biofilm, again directed by Carpenter, and starring the great underrated actor Kurt Russell as Elvis. It originally aired on ABC in February of '79, and also marked the first collaboration between Russell and Carpenter. After its success on TV in the States, a shorter re-edited version of Elvis was released theatrically throughout Europe and of course Australia, where Elvis was huge as well. It was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture Made for TV and for 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Lead Actor in a Miniseries or a Movie for Russell. Now, written by Anthony Lawrence, again directed by Carpenter, co-starring Shelley Winters and Bing Russell as the Presley parents, the beautiful Susan Hubley, who ended up being Kurt Russell's wife before Goldie Hawn in Common Law Marriage, played Priscilla. Joe Renesi did the team music. Again, a Dick Clark production, producer Anthony Lawrence, James Ridge and Tony Bishop, cinematography by the great Donald Morgan, editors were Christopher Holmes and Ron Moeller. Now this was a 168-minute movie, which was kind of unique because it could have qualified as a 2-part miniseries. Now, the basic synopsis is the story follows the well-known moments in the life and career of rock and roll icon Elvis. It ends in 1970 and does not depict the last few years of Presley's career, leading his death in 1977. Now, we're talking about a sequel, never came about. So we're looking at mid-1950s all the way up, and there's many important scenes that kind of look at Elvis's motivations. It's been covered in many books and publications over the years, but Kurt Russell is such a good actor. He doesn't look exactly like Elvis, but he ran the spirit of Elvis in the movie. Now, there's more than one version of the film because obviously 3 hours worth. I think the video version is a little bit shorter. An alternate edit also starts with Presley's hair being cut when he was called up in the U.S. Army and the death of his mother, with no scenes of his life prior. So they cut out Bing Russell and Shelley Winters. Now, the great Ronnie McDowell did 36 songs for the show. I think only 25 were used, but Ronnie's the best Elvis tribute artist in the world, in my opinion. Now, again, Shelley Winters as Gladys Presley, Susan Hubley, the future Mrs. Kurt Russell as Priscilla, Bing, Kurt's real-life father as Vernon, Robert Gray as Red West, the great Pat Hingle, which I think is the ultimate Colonel Tom Parker, played, of course, the Colonel, the beautiful Melody Anderson, met her in person, Luminous as Bonnie, Charles Cyphers as Sam Phillips, Ellen Travolta as Marion Keisker, Will Jordan as Ed Sullivan. Good performance again. The Will Jordan, a great Ed Sullivan impersonator. Joe Mantegna as Joe Esposito. Peter Hobbs as Jim Denny. The great Ed Begley Jr. as D.G. Fontana. James Canning as Scotty Moore. Elliot Street as Bill Black, and Charlie Hodge again as himself. Now, Carpenter said in published reports he wanted to make the film because I wanted to work with actors. I wanted to do a dramatic film, and I wanted to do something different. And Elvis was the first thing that came along that I had any feeling for, personally, because I did have a feeling for Elvis. I liked him very much and I cared about him. So it seemed like a pretty good package when it arrived. After it was over, I was disappointed in some of my work. I was disappointed I didn't have more participation in the editing. Now, this was filmed over 30 days in a budget, some say $2 million, some say $4 million, but he filmed it in 150 locations over 30 days. He was doing 5 locations on average per day. Probably a second unit was helping. Now, Carpenter said some of the days we were moving to 3 and 4 different locations. When you have a big union crew with a lot of trucks and bullshit, you have to run very fast. You have to shoot something in the morning, shoot something in mid-afternoon, and shoot something right before you quit at night. That's what happened. We were just running. Now, Carpenter was not able to edit or score the film and found it an unhappy experience, of course, with his future movies had more control. Now, Russell's connection with Elvis goes way back. He worked with and met Elvis in the film It Happened at the World's Fair. In that film, Elvis wants to meet the fairgrounds nurse, and he plays a young boy, again played by the 12-year-old Russell, to kick him in the shins. Later in the film, he sees Elvis and the nurse together on a date and asks if he can kick him again for money. Russell also dubbed the voice of young Elvis in Forrest Gump, and no, it wasn't Quentin Tarantino, and played an Elvis impersonator in the film 3,000 Miles of Graceland in 2001. Now, Ronnie McDowell, again, 36 songs for the soundtrack of only 25 were used. Now, there's a major continued error in the movie, as the last song Presley performs at his 1970 concert is an American trilogy, a song Presley himself did not release or include in any concerts until the post-Vegas era in 1972. Now, according to numerous reports, Priscilla was paid $50,000 to check the script for accuracy before shooting commenced. There was no indication if he found anything bad. Now, the movie made history because it was aired on ABC opposite two blockbuster films, Gone with the Wind on CBS and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on NBC. Despite this, Elvis bet both to the Nielsen ratings, receiving a 27.3 rating compared to 24.3 and 22.5 respectively. So get this, 73% combined were watching all three movies that night. You wouldn't see that in 2022. Again, Elvis was ranked the 6th most watched program of the week, which is saying a lot because we had some high ratings with the CBS and NBC sitcoms. Now, after its success on television, the shortened version of the film was released throughout Europe. The film debuted on DVD, highly anticipated release in early 2010, and on Blu-ray in 2016 via the vintage label Shout Factory. The Blu-ray disc edition is presented in a 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, in contrast to the original 1.33 to 1 television presentation or the 1.66 to 1 European theatrical release. Now, numerous positive reviews for the movie, with many critics praising the makeup, costume design, cinematography, and Russell's performance, yet some criticized the film's screenplay because it was considered mostly paint by numbers. Now, a shorter re-edited version of Elvis was released throughout Europe and Australia. It grossed $50,000 its opening week in Australia in August and grossed $350,000 in 3 weeks. It grossed $25,000 on the first 10 days, and of all places, Helsinki. Now, Golden Globe Awards, given out January 26, nominated for Best Motion Picture Made for Television. Primetime Emmys, September of 1979. Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series or Special. Outstanding Achievement in Makeup, the great Marvin G. Westmore. And, of course, Cinematography for a Limited Series or Special, the great Donald M. Morgan. Now, Elvis is notable in Carpenter's career for 2 reasons. It was made after Halloween had wrapped, and so it offered him an avenue to try his hand in film away from the horror genre. It was also the first time Carpenter had worked with Russell, who became a frequent collaborator. He starred in Escape from New York, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, and Escape from L.A. So that means the 80s into the 90s, Russell was Carpenter's muse. Now, Russell married co-star the beautiful Susan Hubley on March 1779, and he divorced in 1983. Now, Bing, who played Vernon Presley, is Kurt Russell's real father, and for several years Bing played Deputy Clem Poster in the TV series Bonanza. So, in some of the cuts, they cut out Shelley Winters and Kurt's own father. I saw the whole movie, and Bing and Shelley gave a great performance. Although Shelley, I never see her as a, because he always thought that Elvis's mother was part Aboriginal. I don't think Shelley Aboriginal would have any First Nation in her, in my personal opinion. Now, the soundtrack released in Australia ended up a good hit for 79, 55th overall. So if you can find it on CD or Blu-ray, it's a good look at what Elvis meant in the late 70s after his passing. But I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, if you think Kurt Russell can act, you got a problem with me. Kurt Russell is a great actor, and he showed that in Elvis. So, ladies and gentlemen, another update. We're doing various Elvis podcasts in tribute to the King. Kurt Russell, I think, of the current actors, is one of the best impersonators of Elvis. Check it out, and don't forget, Kurt Russell is much more in these Disney movies, much more than these westerns or TV shows. Kurt Russell, pound for pound, in my opinion, most underrated actors of all time. You look at the movie he did on the 1980 Olympic when he played Herb Brooks, tremendous. But I was fed Kurt Russell a lot as a kid because Disney movies were on its wane, and Russell was doing a Disney movie every 6 months. But when Elvis came out, the pure stardom we predicted for him finally hit, and the rest, of course, is history. He's much more than Goldie Hawn's husband. He's much more than a hockey parent. Kurt Russell, again, one of the best actors to not win a major Oscar or a major Emmy as of this writing. Like I said, to me, a 24/7 superstar, and could be one of the last movie stars behind George Clooney and Clint Eastwood and all that. He's that good. Thanks for listening. Bye.